Hi there. My name is Michael Rowe. I'm an Associate Professor for Digital Innovation and Simulation at the University of Lincoln in the UK. I work in the School of Health and Social Care. My background is in physiotherapy, but over the last few years I've focused mainly on education technology in the classroom, and more recently specifically looking at artificial intelligence. This presentation, I'm going to give a very high-level overview of a range of different opportunities presented by AI in the context of learning in health professions. So just a very brief introduction to generative AI. Essentially, generative AI is a next word prediction system, and all that it does is it tries to create human-like content, primarily in the form of text, but increasingly able to generate both code, images, video, and audio. It has multimodal understanding across a range of different formats. This means it can actually understand what's going on in images and audio and video, as well as text. We're seeing almost monthly improvements in capabilities across healthcare and education. So these language models really understand a lot about what's going on both in education and healthcare contexts. Increasingly, we're seeing that they're integrated into everyday software, and this makes it more and more accessible for anyone, regardless of their learning preferences. I like to think of AI as intelligence on demand, and we're seeing that it's available across devices and platforms in a range of different apps, and this provides immediate learning support. Just a very brief input on understanding prompting. The more context you give language models, the better quality responses you get from them. And the prompt structure does seem to matter, although increasingly we're seeing that specific prompts are becoming less important as models are increasingly capable of inferring user context and intent. But I still tend to suggest that people use a role, goal, and task framework. Sometimes people talk about role, goal, instruct. And this is just about giving the AI a role, explaining your own role, talking about the goal of the interaction, giving the AI a task or an instruction, and then having an ongoing conversation with the AI. This is part of building this understanding through following up questions and deeper engagement. I do think that different AI models have different personalities, and you can ask it to take on certain personalities by specific instructions. So you could say that you want the AI to take on the role of a lecturer, and you're going to be a first-year student, and you want the AI to adopt a tone and a style to match your needs. Ethan Mollick has these 4 principles for AI use that I think are very valuable. He says that you should always invite AI to the table. And what he means by that is that for all of your activities, it's interesting at the very least to be able to include AI as part of that conversation. He says that you should be the human in the loop. And so he still thinks it's important that you apply critical judgment to responses that are provided by AI. So don't just take what they're saying as being kind of the answer. You still need to interpret and put that answer into some kind of a context. He says that you should treat AI like a person, but tell it what kind of person it is. So you can give the AI a persona and ask it to take on that role as part of your interaction. And this last part, or the last principle, I think is probably the most important one. You should assume that this is the worst AI you are ever going to use. So every day I'm surprised at the capabilities of AI that I discover, and it's really enlightening to reflect that this is the worst it's ever going to be. They're only going to improve moving forward. So I've split this presentation into looking at AI in a range of different roles within the learning context. And there's about 2 or 3 slides on each of those roles. So initially, I'm going to talk about AI as a coach. And this first section is about personal learning optimization. So AI is able to learn patterns as it analyzes your approach to identify optimal strategies for your particular learning preferences. Now, this can be a bit challenging in the beginning because you have to articulate exactly what your preferences are. This ability is negatively impacted by an inability to read across threads. So the AI forgets everything in this chat when you move on to another chat window. Some of this is being addressed by memory in ChatGPT and things like custom instructions. So these capabilities are going to change over time, and they are going to get better. AI is able to provide adaptive feedback based on your level of understanding. But again, you have to articulate that understanding, or you have to ask the AI to ask you a load of questions in order for it to infer your understanding. There are some learning platforms where the AI is built into a wider learning ecosystem, and those kinds of platforms can track your understanding over time. For most of this presentation, I'm going to be thinking about what we call frontier language models. So these would be things like Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini from Google. AI is able to break down complex topics into manageable chunks through customized pacing, and it is able to track your progress and suggest adjustments based on your development, for example, by increasing complexity when you're ready. But again, this comes with certain caveats. I think one way to think about all the things that I'm talking about is that each one of these bullet points could be thought of as a puzzle piece. And over time, you should be able to connect all of these different pieces together into something that starts to resemble a coherent picture. But at the moment, each one of these is kind of separate and discrete, and doesn't necessarily mean that all of these capabilities are going to be accessible within any one model or within any one service or product. So sticking with this idea of AI as a coach, one of the other areas that might be useful to think about using AI as part of your learning is for goal setting and for accountability. So AI can help define clear, measurable learning goals through smart objectives, and everyone should be familiar with that. But if you give an AI that instruction, so give me a set of smart objectives in order to achieve this learning outcome, taking into account this context, I think you'll be surprised at how capable they actually are. You can create milestone-based pathways to achievement through structured planning, although this is very much dependent on the size of the context window for the language model. So how much information you're able to upload to the model as part of that structured planning and kind of curriculum pathway. You need to be able to give it prompts for reflection and progress assessment through regular check-ins. The AI is able to prompt you for reflection and progress assessment through regular check-ins. And again, this would be something that would be built into a wider learning ecosystem rather than just something that's available through some of the frontier models. Some of these specific learning AIs are able to adjust the difficulty levels to maintain engagement without being overwhelming. The last one in this section is sense making with AI. And I think for me, this has been the most valuable use of AI when it comes to my own understanding of a range of different complex topics. So AI is able to help clarify concepts by transforming complex ideas into clearer explanations. It can help integrate knowledge by connecting new information with existing understanding. But again, like I mentioned earlier, this means that you do first have to articulate that existing understanding, or you have to use quite a lot of tokens, which is like a different way of thinking about conversation. You've got to use a lot of conversation with the AI in order for it to infer your understanding about a topic. The AI is able to help you view topics through different theoretical lenses by taking on multiple perspectives or personas. So moving on to a different category, looking at AI for learning support. And the first section in this category is using AI as a tutor. You can ask AI to create custom clinical cases that are mapped to your level of understanding. And again, it helps if you have like a text file or a prompt where you can explain to it what your level of understanding in this particular area is. And that could be as broad as saying, I'm a first year physiotherapy student, or I'm a final year physiotherapy student, or I'm a novice physiotherapy graduate. You can break down complex procedures into manageable parts through step-by-step guidance. And AI is also able to demonstrate a clinical reasoning process by simulating expert discussions about patient cases via different personas. So again, you can ask the AI to take on different roles, you can take on different roles, and you can have conversations about patients in different ways. AI is able to test your knowledge by generating questions that help you to identify gaps in your understanding that you can then use to inform your learning and planning for learning. It's also able to provide immediate clarification by resolving uncertainties in real time. AI is very good at helping to build understanding by visualizing connections between physiotherapy principles, by concept mapping. It's able to do this by transforming information into different forms. So you can give it text and you can ask it to create a diagram or a flowchart. And that ability to transform information between different formats, I think, is especially valuable. AI can help drive knowledge retention through spaced repetition schedules based on your needs. It can help you to construct clinical reasoning trees and decision pathways, for example, for a differential diagnosis of clinical cases. And it can help with theory practice integration by linking theory to practical skills development and clinical scenarios. So again, you're able to ask the AI, or you're able to give the AI some information, some context, maybe a book chapter, and you can ask it to help link some of that information to practical skills development. And it can help you to build mental models for understanding complex conditions. All of these things, I should be very clear, are based on your ability to provide relatively sophisticated prompts and additional context to the model. So it's not like you can just go to ChatGPT and ask it a very simple question. For example, help me to build a mental model for understanding COPD, for example. You would need to provide additional context by uploading information, building quite a sophisticated prompt, and over time, developing like a sense of taste or style about how you interact with AI. I don't want to create the impression that it's easy to do some of these things. Hopefully, over the course of this blended and intensive program, there'll be many opportunities for you to practice developing a sense of style using these prompts. AI is also able to support learning through active engagement. It can do this by creating interactive learning opportunities by transforming passive reading into active exploration and questioning. And there's quite a few apps that you can use. Explain Paper is one of the ones that I tend to recommend to students. You can highlight pieces of text and say, ask me a series of MCQs, multiple choice questions related to the text that I've highlighted. There's actually a wide range of different tools that you could use, including the frontier models like Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. You can use AI to create detailed patient scenarios to guide your own reflection and potentially inform practice, although I would be hesitant at this point to suggest that you're using the outputs of AI to directly drive your decision-making in clinical practice. However, it might be an interesting way to generate some scenarios that you could take to a supervisor or a lecturer and to ask whether or not this might be useful for your own decision-making in practice. AI can help develop clear markers for competency achievement and success criteria, and it can generate topics for group learning and debate through peer discussion. And I think it's those kinds of creative suggestions for learning opportunities that AI really provides a lot of really powerful applications. And it can create safe spaces for practicing patient interactions and clinical simulations. Again, you can give the AI a persona and say, you are an 87-year-old patient with COPD, you've lost your husband, you're struggling financially, you live alone. So you can provide quite a lot of background for the AI and ask it to take on those roles as part of a conversation that you have with it. And this is a really safe way for you to practice having an interaction with different kinds of patients. AI is really creative, and I'm always surprised at the number of posts and articles that talk about how human beings need to hold on to creativity as being an area that's unique to humans. I find AI to be incredibly creative. Maybe I'm just not creative, and so I tend to think of it as creative. In terms of developing learning materials, I think AI is a fantastic tool. You can take lecture notes or slideshows that your lecturers have given you, and you can ask AI to convert that information into different formats. So you could create diagrams, illustrations, and other visual aids, either for your own learning or for patient education. You can structure content for effective communication and presentation design. So you can take a set of notes and you can ask AI to suggest that or suggest a framework for presentations. I would say that for many of these suggestions that I'm giving, you should probably first have a conversation with either a lecturer or a clinical supervisor, depending on your learning context, and just find out what they think about using some of these tools to support your learning. AI can be used to adapt resources and modify learning materials for different learning needs and preferences, and I've mentioned that a few times already. It can suggest more engaging activities through interactive elements for deeper learning. So you could upload a textbook chapter, for example, and you can ask the AI to come up with a series of activities, interactive activities that you can use to interact with that text rather than just passively reading it. And you can build materials that follow logical learning sequences for curricular progression. Again, sticking with the theme of AI as a creative partner, you can look at workflow integration and think about how you approach your learning in different ways with the support of AI. So AI can help leverage the combination of multiple AI tools for better results. It can help you to streamline processes and create more efficient workflows for learning schedules and content creation. I use something like that quite a lot for a project that I have on the side, and I ask AI to give me suggestions for ways that I could schedule my content creation for that project, taking into account my full-time job and the fact that I don't want to work on the weekends. And so you could take a similar approach where you could give AI a range of different constraints and limitations when it comes to your own learning. So maybe you have a job where you work in the evenings and the weekend. Maybe you have caring responsibilities. So there's a wide range of things that might limit your learning capacity. And you could give all of that information to AI and say, suggest a schedule that I could use to approach my learning and preparation for the tests that are coming up on these dates. So that's what I'm talking about when I think about workflow, how to use AI to help manage your time more effectively. You can help structure and manage learning materials through more efficient resource organization. You can maintain standards of quality across different learning resources. So you can map resource creation against criteria of quality. So you can give it one set of resources that says, I want to create a set of slides, but I also want the slides to align with these quality criteria. And you can find that, a range of different examples of what those quality criteria might look like in different contexts. And you can use it for iterative improvement of materials based on lecturer feedback and learning preferences or needs. So you can create learning materials, and then you could have a conversation with a personal tutor or one of your lecturers, and they can give you feedback. You can use that feedback to then develop better learning materials based on your preferences. AI as a research assistant, we're just seeing massive progress in this area. I mean, all of the things on this slide are actually from a paper in 2021, and the capabilities of AI have only just increased massively over the last few years. In terms of information management, AI can help identify key themes and findings in increasingly capable literature analyses. So you're able to upload a bunch of research papers, and you can ask AI to identify themes and findings. It can find patterns across multiple sources, so it's really good at that. It can help you with data organization and more structured information storage for easier access and use. A lot of this is around just giving you advice about how you could be more effective in your own use of information. It can identify trends across multiple sources through pattern recognition, and it can help you to maintain clear records of information origins through efficient tracking of source material. And again, this would be about maybe using a tool like Elicit or Consensus, where you're able to identify relationships between different sources of research, and you're able to track information across those different resources. And it can help you generate and refine research questions. I've been using AI more and more for a wide range of different types of writing. It's really good at scientific writing. It wasn't so good maybe about a year ago, but in the last 6 months, I've noticed a significant improvement in frontier models' ability to write scientifically. It can help you create logical flows in your writing and develop structure in an academic context. It can help improve precision and the enhancement of clarity in scientific communication. It's really good at early draft writing that can provide starting points for more development. And enhanced reference management ensures proper citation and formatting. And I've noticed, especially in Gemini and Perplexity, ChatGPT also to some extent, it's really good at citing sources. And AI can adjust its writing style and adapt content for different audiences, for example, across academic, clinical, or patient contexts. I would say before you use AI for any kind of writing, you really should check with your institutional regulations, your personal tutors, lecturers, clinical supervisors, and just have an honest conversation with them about how you're thinking about using AI and get feedback from them about what their position on AI is. So even though I'm suggesting that these capabilities are present and you can use them, it doesn't mean that you should or that you're allowed to. So you definitely want to have a conversation with the kind of people who are going to be responsible for supervising and grading you in different kind of assessment contexts. AI as a clinical companion is very, very powerful. It can really provide a lot of opportunities for practicing clinical scenarios. So, for example, it can help you conduct or practice interviews through simulating diverse patient engagements. It can help you enhance communication skills by providing feedback on therapeutic dialogue. So if you had a transcript of a conversation with a patient and it was sufficiently anonymized, it could give you feedback on the quality of that conversation. It can also improve clinical note-taking through documentation analysis, although I would caution you against uploading real patient notes. But if you had an example of a set of clinical notes that you've taken and you sufficiently anonymized it, you could upload that to an AI and ask it for feedback on the quality of your note-taking. It can help develop evidence-based approaches to treatment planning. And again, you want to be very careful about uploading patient-specific information to any language model. But if it was, again, sufficiently anonymized, then AI is actually very good at providing different ways of thinking about treatment planning for real-world patients. You can also use AI to explore challenging clinical scenarios and complex cases in a safe environment. So if you could find, there's loads of libraries of clinical case studies online. You could upload those, maybe you could download 5 that are related to a specific condition, upload those to AI and say, I don't know very much about this condition. Can you help me think through it in a logical and structured way? As with all things in AI, but especially when you start merging AI with clinical practice, there's loads of ethics considerations. AI can help you to develop an understanding of professional boundaries and the limits of AI in practice. So I find that AI is actually very good at its own limitations in areas that are kind of high stakes, like clinical practice. Obviously, data protection is essential, and I've mentioned a few times you need to be very careful about what you upload. You need to maintain confidentiality in any interactions with AI. We also need to recognize that there are potential prejudices or limitations through bias in AI training data. We need to make sure that we always follow professional standards, guidelines, or policies for AI use in learning or practice. And we need to make sure that we always keep the focus on patient needs and clinical judgment. So moving forward, I think it's really important that we build expertise in AI-enhanced practice and skill development in using AI-based platforms and services. And that's what this blended intensive program is really about. It's important to maintain professional judgment and critical thinking when using AI. We need to focus on the uniquely human aspects of care. And I think it's very important to ask, what is the value that you add to the interaction with AI? We need to look at professional growth by integrating AI tools with clinical expertise. And I think that AI is going to be increasingly important in the development of clinical specialties moving forward. And you need to stay current with evolving AI capabilities in healthcare. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to be an expert in AI, but I do think that people who use AI well are going to be able to thrive in this new world. So in conclusion, I think you need to use AI as a learning partner, not an oracle. And in the context of AI, an oracle is a device that gives answers, correct answers. So don't think of an AI in terms of its ability to give you accurate responses. Think of it as a collaborative partner, something that you think with, not just something that generates information that you passively consume. You need to use AI to transform passive study into active learning. And I hope that I've given a range of different ways of thinking about using AI as a way to support an active approach to learning. Better prompts do equal better results, but you do need to explain your needs and context clearly. If you are feeling a little bit apprehensive about using AI, then I recommend starting with very, very simple ideas, simple prompts, simple concepts, and build in complexity as you develop confidence with the tools. I've given some suggestions for quite complicated ways of using AI as part of this lecture, but you don't need to do that. You could start off as simply as uploading a research paper and asking an AI to explain it to you as if you were a first-year physiotherapy student. We need to remember that AI supports, not replaces, professional judgment and experience. So it's not about handing off our decision-making capabilities and clinical reasoning to an AI. It's about using it to support your professional judgment. And AI capabilities are rapidly evolving, and what's impossible today might be routine tomorrow. And we've really seen this explode in the last few weeks, with AI reasoning models really coming to the fore, even in mainstream media. So I think learning to learn with AI is a crucial professional skill, and I hope that this blended intensive program is really going to help you develop that skill and improve your practice moving forward. And there's a bunch of references that might be useful. So I hope this has been useful in terms of maybe opening up some different ways of thinking about AI to support your own learning. And I hope that the next few sessions in this blended intensive program help to dig deeper into some of the ideas that I've provided an overview of today. So thanks very much. I hope it's been useful, and I look forward to hearing about your experiences moving forward.